Monday, March 9th, 2020, MONERO 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. My goodness, I could use mayhem, carnage, collapse, crash. I don't think there's enough clickbait really to describe what's happening in the markets overnight from Sunday night to Monday morning. I've never seen it before. I had never seen the stock market crash so fast, so close to its all-time high a couple weeks ago, and now we're seeing this. It does look, of course, like it's going to be a Black Monday. Will the powers that be able to come in and save the day? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's quite amazing. So what have we seen overnight? Well, we've seen crude oil with the collapse, de facto collapse of OPEC on Friday and over the weekend. We've seen crude oil go from $42 on Friday to a low of $27.65. Yes, oil basically dropped about 30% overnight. That's going to be, how can I say, that's going to kill, in my opinion, the Middle East Gulf countries. They're going to have huge problems. I don't know if you remember some years ago, Dubai almost went bust. I think it's going to be even worse. This move is really wicked. What else? The dollar is not doing well either. The dollar index is down almost 1%. Don't forget, the dollar is really the petrodollar. It needs the OPEC countries to recycle their dollar earnings back into paper assets. But overnight, that recycling potential has been cut by 30%. Quite amazing. What else have we had? Well, we've had the Dow down as much as 1,600 points, the Dow futures. Right now, the Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ 100 futures are all locked, limit down. So that means unless the market starts trading up, no one can trade. I was up fairly late last night. I did close out some puts last week, made a good profit. I'm not really concerned that it's kept going lower. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities in this market. Of course, you have to be very careful. But I shorted a couple of S&Ps, not through the puts, just two. And I woke up around 3 in the morning and I saw that the Dow was down about 1,500. It had gone through the limit down. But unfortunately, the S&P, I couldn't close it because it was limit down, so the market was shut. I had to wait until it rose to close the position. I made a slight profit, but could have made a lot more. So it was frustrating. So you need to really, if you don't have experience in the market, I really recommend you don't get involved trying to profit from these moves. It's quite amazing. So crude oil got down to $27.65. Right now, WTI is at $30.33, down 26.7%. Gold got up above 1,700. We got up to 1703.75. I could feel it though that they're trying to keep gold below that level. Every time gold went up above 1,700, and it did that a lot of times, it kept coming back off. Am I concerned? No. This is more important than ever now to keep a hold of your precious metals, be it gold, silver, or others. Silver got caught. The old analogy of being thrown, the baby being thrown out with the bathwater. That's what happened to silver with the drop in oil. Silver is still considered by many to be mostly a industrial commodity, but we know that it will shine as a monetary one. So Billy's not here this morning, but he said he wanted to stay near to his silver, so he's looking after it. He's accumulating still a lot of silver. So gold got caught in that as well, in the puke in silver, so to speak. Gold traded down to 1657 overnight, but now we're at 1684, up $10. So it's As I said, it's going to be very volatile. Silver right now is at 16.91, down 44. Got as low as 16.55. So right now we're testing the 100 to 1 gold silver ratio. Will it hold? Are we going to see that flip and silver start to outperform? Who knows? But I'm not getting rid of my silver at all. Trading, of course, is another game. So right now, the Dow futures, S&P and NASDAQ, as I said, they're down 5%. And the reason they're not trading is because they probably would be down a lot more. The limit down works in that the market can only start trading once the bid in the market goes above a certain percentage, and it looks like right now it's 5%. Once that resumes, people can start trading. So it means that there's no bounce right now in the stock market. And I think there's a point as well where they move the limit down lower. It's going to be really something to watch today, especially when the US comes in. Right now until March 29th, we're only 4 hours ahead of the US Eastern Time. So it's 7:32 a.m. London. So it's actually the equivalent of 3:33 a.m. New York. Currencies, as I said, the dollar is getting really hammered, especially against the yen. And why the yen? Well, because the yen has been known to be a currency that is sold or borrowed, and with the proceeds, people buy risky assets. It's called the carry trade. And what we're seeing today is quite amazing as well in the FX market. So the dollar is down over 3% against the yen. We're almost at 100. It's at 102.01. The low has been 101.50. So that means that speculators, investors, they're buying back their yen because their risky assets are dropping in value, and they can't do it fast enough. And that's why the dollar is collapsing versus the yen. There isn't much support until 100. The pound is up over 1%, 131.93, and the euro is up 1.5% at 114.65. So dollar getting crushed. Yeah, there'll probably be a bounce sometime this week. I'm sure the central bankers, the powers that be, they're probably up right now talking what they can start doing. It's probably going to start in Europe, early on in Europe, maybe 9 o'clock London, 10 o'clock London. The US is going to come in. I can expect to see a lot of maybe interventions. We'll see if it works. Treasury yield, also sinking massively. I mean, I've never seen yields move this fast. And of course, I worked in the bond markets for over 20 years. So right now, the 10-year yield is at 34 basis points. So we've dropped about 1% in that yield in the last couple of weeks. You all remember that 132 level, right? That seems very a very long time ago. So the 10-year yield is down 36.5 basis points. The 30-year is down even more, and that's because of convexity. The longer term, the price of the bond, the quicker the price moves as yields drop. So convexity, like that. There's a curve in the line, in the projection or of the yield. So right now the 30-year yield is down 50 basis points at 71. Really crazy. I saw yesterday as well the FTSE 100 index. It dropped to like 5,900. It had closed, I think, at 6,500. So right now, let's see, the FTSE is at 58.87, down 9%, the FTSE. And don't forget, the FTSE was trading around 7,000 back in 2000. And here we are in 2020 at 58.86. So the FTSE is down 9. The DAX is down just under 9%. What about the Italian index? Well, that's down over 10%. And the headlines keep getting worse in terms of the health crisis. So what's one to do in these times? I think if you've been able to get out of the system, as I've been trying to warn people and try to give my opinion that they need to have some kind of protection outside the system, you should be sleeping more soundly at night. If you have a huge exposure to the system, I think you should be concerned now. We can definitely say that this is it. Don't want to say the word, has hit the fan. And this is the pricking of the everything bubble. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. I don't think it's that hard to say it anymore. I thought when I saw over a month ago that headline that the Chinese had quarantined the city of 11 million, I thought, wow, there's something wrong here. So let's have a quick look at the headlines. Financial Times, oil prices crashed 30%, sending global stocks tumbling. U.S. 10-year Treasury yields slides below 0.5% as crude suffers biggest fall since first Gulf War. And that was under Papa Bush, General Schwarzkopf. This was not the second Iran or Gulf War. What does the Wall Street Journal say? Global markets rocked as crude fight sends oil prices plunging. So what's the crude fight all about? I think it's because the Russians decided not to play ball with OPEC and help them cut production. So over the weekend, the Saudis threw the towel. They're going to start producing a lot more. They don't care about OPEC anymore. And if you've watched my videos about the petrodollar, and if you haven't, you can go into my channel. I'll try to put some up in the cards. I talk about how the petrodollar and OPEC are so important to keeping the, how can I say, international status of the dollar as a global reserve currency. So if oil prices are plunging this deeply, if OPEC, for all intents and purposes, has been broken, that's a cartel, one could argue that it's going to be a drag on the petrodollar. And we can see by the dollar dropping here today in a major way versus the major currency that's what's happening. What will be the next cartel to be broken? Well, because most people don't see the central bankers as a cartel, but they are. And what is the central bankers? OPEC? Well, it's the Bank for International Settlements in Basel. Hopefully their power will wane with this collapse of the everything bubble. Yeah, so we are in historical times, if you want to call it biblical as well. I wouldn't argue with you. So keep your head down, batten down the hatches. Hopefully you have enough protection outside the system, and be careful if you're gonna trade. Don't leverage yourself. Have stops. To finish off, I'll just give you an example of how stops are important. On Friday, I saw that oil dropped 8%, and I said, well, there must be a small opportunity here to buy a little bit of crude and make some money. So I did buy some crude at 42.29. It rose to around 42.50, not much more. But before I went to bed, I told myself I'm going to put a stop at 42. And I did. And I got stopped out at 42. I lost very little. Can you imagine if I'd been long still at 42.20 and hadn't put a stop? Well, it would have been a huge loss. So that's the lesson for the day. If you're going to trade these markets, use stops. Or don't go to sleep and keep an eye on it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Share it far and wide. Think about subscribing to the channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, BitChute, Steemit, and DTube. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.